Hey guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. See you later.
Good morning. This is Jim Wheeler, and I'm making this video message for you because I am aware that many expect a response to the allegations that Angela Albers made against me in 2018. This message is primarily for my daughters. The allegations that Angela Albers made against me are false. I was recorded for hours and hours, according to Texas Ranger Richard Henderson, and I was recorded on multiple devices placed in multiple locations, according to Billy Bird, the Upshur County District Attorney. I've become aware that on Friday night at the home of my former investigator, Jerry Hirsch, Angela Albers, my former employee, is hosting a party to play recordings that were secretly made of me. I entered this campaign because of a threat I received, communicated through a member of the press from Angela Albers, that when I moved back to Wood County from Odessa, that she knew I had been to the newspaper office. She hoped I was not running for district attorney, and that she had more. After that, I received a telephone call from a woman who said that Jerry Hirsch, prior to the Rangers contacting me, had indicated to her that he was going to seek my prosecution so that I would have my reputation ruined in the news. In 2018, I received a visit from Texas Ranger Grover Huff. He was a major with the Texas Rangers out of the Garland office. This is his card. Grover Huff came to see me because he had been transferred, he said, to Houston from Garland. I had requested a public corruption investigation. The report that I received from the Texas Rangers was wholly inadequate. As a result, I met with Senator Brian Hughes, and Sheriff Tom Caslow came to the meeting. I believe that Brian Hughes recorded our conversation, where we discussed in great detail fundamental problems that I had had over my 12 years with the Texas Rangers' performance in Wood County, based on public corruption investigation requests following matters such as the prosecution of Rod Hashaway in Winsboro. Ranger Huff came to me in my office after I met with Brian Hughes. I wrote a letter that I gave to Senator Hughes that I also made copies of and sent to the governor, the Attorney General, the Director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, and Senator John Whitmire, who, along with Brian Hughes, were on the Senate Criminal Justice Committee. That letter identified numerous areas where the requested public integrity investigation and report that I received were less than acceptable, and I rejected the Texas Ranger case submitted by Ranger John Vance. When Grover Huff met me, he said he'd read the letter, that he'd been transferred to Houston, And he got, about this far from my face and said, "You better hope we don't look at you." Shortly thereafter, the problems began with Angela Albers at the end of my tenure. According to the Ranger report, I created a position for Miss Albers in order to pressure her for sexual relations. If you have viewed the letter from my office manager, Connie Williams, on my Facebook site, you have seen that the position was requested by Angela Albers after her husband, Tom Converse, a good man, left her. And she wanted more money. Because of a strained relationship that I had with Brian Jeans in the Commissioner's Court, and because my former employee, Angela Albers, was the misdemeanor attorney in Brian Jeans's court, I told her if she wanted a position, she was going to have to negotiate that position herself, which she did with Brian Jeans, a county judge whom I had grieved for public drunkenness. After the position was created near the end of my tenure, Miss Albers approached me in an inappropriate way after I suggested that maybe I needed to get out of town, maybe to a place she liked, Wyoming. And she had changed the way she dressed. And she reached down and started rubbing her leg and said, "Be careful, I might go with you." Now, if you look behind me, you'll see a number of albums. I've been collecting music for 50 years. If you know me well, you know my extensive collection of recordings. Miss Albers had never given me gifts before, nor has she come in my office. In fact, she was substitute teaching and was handling only misdemeanors. She was handling misdemeanors because she left the district courtroom crying, said she could not prosecute cases in front of Tim Boswell, and I made her a misdemeanor prosecutor. She took care of her children. I discovered she was working part-time for the Alba Golden School District. She did not come to work full-time, and she tried to get closer to me. I kept her at a distance. But she did things like give me this record. Came in my office, and it was all packaged in a bag with tissue paper. It's something she'd never singled me out and done that before. In the Ranger report, she says that her children thought she had cancer. That's not true. She visited my father, whose lungs were filling with fluid at the hospital, and my mother, brought balloons and brought her daughter with her. She also solicited donations for her children, which I met. I have canceled checks as close as 10 days before the Rangers interviewed me. And she told me that I could trust her repeatedly. I was not a person given to disclosing how I thought and felt. Let's take a moment and discuss how Miss Albers came to work in my office. I did not know her. She was an attorney, a misdemeanor prosecutor, according to Karen Wilson and Ray Sumrow, both who worked in the Rockwall County District Attorney's Office, with very little trial experience. My brother and my father had a firm together, Wheeler and Wheeler. That firm took criminal cases in Rockwall, and my brother introduced Miss Albers to me and asked me to hire her when Ray Sumrow, who was also the target of a Ranger investigation, began to fail as district attorney. My father was his lawyer and loyal friend. I talked with Miss Albers, who had her father with her. And Miss Albers asked for a job, and because of my brother and my father, I hired her. Regretfully, my brother has been so embarrassed by the allegations that Miss Albers made against me that he has removed my name and all references to me from the family law firm website. A painful thing. Miss Albers began working for me and initially assisted me on a case or two. One that comes to mind is Jose Concepcion Garcia, who were multiple life sentences for abusing children, his grandchildren. Well, that soon stopped, and she developed a relationship with Brandon Body, a lawyer that I had hired and fired. If Miss Albers' allegations were true, all she had to do was tell my dad, my brother, any of a number of attorneys in Rockwall, including John Albritton. Any behavior, if it were inappropriate and were not solicited, would have stopped, of course. My father would have told me to resign if I'd done something inappropriate. There was no need for the recordings that are about to be released. Let's talk about Ranger Huff and his threat. According to the Ranger report, not only did Miss Albers fabricate the creation of the job, but the Ranger report says that my investigator of over 10 years approached my assistant prosecutor, Angela Albers, who had been with me over 10 years, that he had conferred with Ranger John Vance first. I believe that in response to my letter to the Senate Criminal Justice Committee, Senator Hughes authorized an investigation of me and requested it of the governor. I've been told as much by my counsel. Billy Byrd told me the governor's office called him in Upshur County to initiate against me. My attorney told me that what happened to me could have only happened at the request of a senator. I believe Grover Huff went to Ranger Vance, and Ranger Vance and Jerry Hirsch approached Miss Albers. You do not make recordings of an individual unless he trusts you. And she said I could trust her over and over. You're not afraid of an individual when you're getting close enough to him to record him privately. Now, the Ranger report says she has about 6 weeks worth of recordings. I believe there's more. Wes Criddle, former Justice of the Peace and Chief Deputy under Bill Wansley, unplugged my telephone during a meeting one time with myself and Bill Wansley and himself and told me I was being recorded through the telephone system. I did not believe it at the time. Tom Caslow and Jeff Fletcher approached me with a letter written by the former head of the probation department. That letter indicated the information technology department of Wood County was harvesting telephone calls. I overheard a conversation between the court coordinator for Judge Brian Jeans and the head of information technology, indicating a capability to track all keystrokes on computers. I subpoenaed, just prior to my leaving office, hard drives that harvested recordings out of the office of Judge Brian Jeans. And I was told by Jerry Hirsch that a former employee, Nita Joe Petty, was recording me throughout the office. So I believe Billy Bird when he said I was recorded on multiple devices in multiple locations. I believe the Ranger report when it says Jerry Hirsch approached Angela Albers. I believe Angela Albers harvested those recordings for political purposes. After I left office and my former staff was informed that I'd left, 5 minutes after Billy Bird left the office, according to Connie Williams, Angela Albers reconvened my former staff and told them she intended to seek the office of district attorney. My wife received a text message, and that text message indicated from one of Angela Albers' staff members, Amy Cook, that Nita Joe Petty had said within her hearing, if I go down, you all go down. In 2018, my wife received a call from a former district judge saying that that same employee had called him and told him that if I came back to the courthouse to take the oath on January 1st, she'd release recordings. I told you about what she'd said to the newspaper man, that threat. I told you about the phone call that I received conveying the intent to smear me. I've anticipated throughout this district attorney primary a vicious public campaign and whisper campaign that was directed at my marriage. Becky and I were fine when we got back from Odessa. And I don't want to live in Wood County under threat of blackmail by government officials. I've made appropriate reports detailing these concerns to law enforcement to no avail. I've received no assistance from law enforcement concerning the secret recording of my conversations. Now, concerning those conversations, when they took an inappropriate turn, I went and visited my priest, Father Mike, at Holy Spirit Catholic Church. And then I visited Miss Albers, and I told her we were not going to have a relationship. I had visited with my priest. It was then that I received a phone call from Ranger Richard Henderson of the Public Integrity Unit telling me that he needed to speak with me about Jeff Fletcher. And I went and visited with him for nearly 2 hours, as I recall, concerning Jeff Fletcher. Only then did he reveal that I was indeed the target of his investigation. And I terminated the interview and left. After that meeting, I drove to see Billy Bird, a fellow longtime prosecutor and district attorney that I considered a friend, knowing that a judge had been selected and that he had been contacted by the Rangers through presiding Judge Lorenzo Charles. There weren't many options at that point. I could go back to the courthouse and fire my entire staff, since they'd been recording me. I could put the county through a tremendous, painful episode involving civil litigation, since Miss Albers had secured Brandon's body and intended litigation aimed at the county's insurance. To save everybody the pain and embarrassment, I fell on my sword, and I remained silent until now, until I was threatened. And now here we are, the same threat with recordings. They're going to get played at a rally. I believe it's criminal blackmail. I believe the actions violate the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. I believe then, as I told Billy Bird, and I believe now, that a conspiracy to unlawfully intercept oral communications took place. You do not make recordings like she described when you're afraid. There didn't have to be any recordings made. All that had to happen was a visit with one of my colleagues, my father, my brother, call my wife. Miss Albers wanted these recordings. She wanted them for political purposes and to smear me. She and Mr. Hirsch and Mr. Body. I haven't taken any campaign donations. I haven't spoken about this dishonorable mess. I haven't asked for any endorsements. And I've been straightforward. I don't like what's happening. I believe that your vote represents a selection of a person who is a reflection of your community. If you want somebody who's betrayed a person that's been good to them for a decade, sneakily made recordings, threatened to publish those, and hurt a family that had been good to her family, then vote for her. I wouldn't do that, what she did to another person. Now, I've been attacked physically by the husband of one of her employees. She's had her agents smear me at the elections office and attack my character with people seeking to register to vote for me. Her recordings only reflect part of the sexual tension that she created in my whole office. And she used all of us to get what she wanted. She's made allegations against her brother-in-law concerning sexual abuse of one of her nieces or nephews. She made allegations against Mark Bredding, asked me how to make him stop sexually harassing her, and I told her how. She has decimated the character of her husband, Tom Converse, and alienated her children from him. She's accused Joey Finlaw of sexually harassing her and said she needed the first assistant position to get on top of that situation. Her tapes are being released for one reason only, because I'm running for office. And I'm tired of it. She only recorded part of the story. You're not going to hear her saying over and over, "You can trust me. You can trust me. You can trust me." I wish I had tapes of the stuff she'd said to me, but I didn't follow her around with a tape recorder like she did me. Those recordings were then contrived by, and are all contrived by, Angela Albers, because I wouldn't leave my wife for her. And I wouldn't let her control my office. The Ranger report makes clear I didn't touch her. I didn't send her nasty text messages. I didn't grope her. Despite her repeated advances to encourage me to leave my wife for her. I was horrified when I discovered the recording, and I had to visit with Father Mike again. Unfortunately, Miss Albers has chosen, for obvious reasons, to make a public spectacle for sheer political gain and to assassinate my character. "20 years as a prosecutor, I've helped many, many people, hundreds. Hours and hours to get my 3 college degrees. Her spurious allegations made one of my friends ask me to go by another name so it wouldn't harm his firm. The footprint she created on the internet follows me. I don't believe that you can fix reputational damage. I don't have any illusions about the outcome of this campaign after the allegations she's made. In this country, when you threaten a man, he'll stand up and defy you. So my candidacy is an act of defiance. I don't know what else is going to follow here, but I don't believe in a government that surveils its elected officials. And then when they're considering making radical changes to personnel, brings the hammer down and destroys them. Wood County, the state of Texas, and these United States deserve better than what my family has experienced. My wife deserved better. My children, that's what happened. Madison, Hannah, Abigail, Allison, Jay. I'm not a perfect man. I'm not running for Pope, but I've tried to help a lot of people. And I'm ashamed of the sins I've committed. And God's forgiven me. But this has been a merciless, vindictive, evil attack on on me and my family. I hope that's not what Wood County is. Lord forgave me long ago. I've forgiven the people that attacked me long ago. But the blackmail needs to stop. That's why I'm here. For those I've helped, my gratitude. For those I've hurt, my deepest apology. I did the best I could as an imperfect man, created in the image of God. Let's all pray for each other. God bless you. Goodbye.
That's all, folks.